Peace, family. So we back with another one. Today what I want to do is I want to talk to my chosen ones about how they will never change. Most of the people that's on the other side of the fence will never shift or change, meaning they never going to come over to this more righteous side. They're not going to start following the flow of the Creator. But you do have your ones in the middle who do pretend to change and shift, and they may actually follow a different belief system. But when you follow in Creator and Source, the blueprint, the laws and rules are in fine print and bold letters. But what I realized with a lot of the other beings who, quote unquote, pretend to be moving away from the demonic playbook that's in charge right now in our today's society, they'll pretend as if they're moving over with the Creator and Source, but all their perspectives is still open. You don't want to be closed-minded, but we have clear-cut rules with Source and the Creator, meaning you can do 1, 2, 3. You shall not do 1, 2, 3. But with the people who have been transitioning, they're trying to ride the middle. It's kind of like the people who follow religions and only pick out the pieces that they like and they throw everything else out the window. I believe that we all should be at a pretty good understanding that if you don't shift your belief system, it doesn't matter how many times you change clothes, get your hair cut, grow your hair, move around to different locations. The way you walk your life is always gonna be a reflection of your inner process. This is why they have those statements like, you could take the man out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the man, meaning that, if they had these certain characteristics when they was living in these certain areas and you moved them to a different location, those characteristic traits are still going to follow them, meaning they're still going to operate and move as if they're in that kind of vibration location that they just currently or recently left. Their belief system never changed. And for a lot of us on this side of the spectrum, that do have people kind of close by that we care about, because once you've been on this journey for a while, you realize even the ones that you care the most about, if they haven't shifted their playbooks, you have to love them from a distance. Meaning you don't have to have any hatred towards them, but you don't give them the same time or energy the way that you used to. This is like one of the hardest parts of this journey, because this is like one of them spaces where you trying not to turn cold-blooded. You trying your hardest not to turn your heart into stone. But you have to have some kind of protection or else you will get destroyed or drained of all your energy and resources out here in the midst of all of these demons, or the ones who walk with demons. One of the two. This is one of them places where I always seesaw at, because I can get pretty reckless, but I always have had a big heart. I've always been open arms. I've always shared information. I've always shared materialistic items, None of that stuff have ever really been that huge to me, My daughter could break something in the house of mine and, it doesn't make me crumble or get angry at her or despise her for breaking it, because I've worked on my connection with this physical realm. I know that all of us got to get up out of here eventually. No one gets to stay. So no matter how hard you fight for certain materialistic items, you do not get to take them with you. I say that to say we are some of the most selfless beings in this realm. And we have to practice and work extremely hard at learning how to protect our energy. I don't want to use that word being selfish. I'm just not a fan of the word. If that's a word you would like to use, plug it on in there. But I feel as though protecting your energy is not really considered selfish, It's actually more of a selfless act if you think about it, especially if you're someone out here who is a healer or a helper, or you using your vibration to impact people around you or your environment in a positive light or in a more righteous light, Sometimes when we do things righteously, it isn't always positive. Sometimes when we do righteous things, it's not always positive. It's like if you had to protect your house because somebody was breaking in and you had to swipe left on them and get them out of here. Now they on to their next journey. That's not something that would be considered positive, but it was something that was necessary. Meaning it is extremely righteous for you to protect your family and your household, but it may not have the most positive outcome. We have to get to a space of understanding that you have to constantly practice shield, swing, shield, swing, sword, shields down. It's literally like you're in a boxing ring training, because you don't want to put yourself in a space of being so closed off and so cold-hearted that it turns you into them. A lot of them people will never shift out of the spaces they're in. And the more and more I engage with people out here in today's society, whether it's old people that was close to me, whether it's new people that want to get close to me, or I wanted to see what their vibration was hitting on, it becomes a little frustrating, because we should be engaging with other humans. But the simple fact is, every time you go to try to engage with other humans, you end up with some kind of new war wound on your spirit or your physical vessel, or you end up causing some damage to someone around you in the process, and that wasn't the goal at all. You go from trying to mingle and build with somebody to now you're in a sword fight. It's so much friction out here, and a lot of these people are stuck. I'm not going to say stuck, because we all have free choice and free will, and they are willingly choosing to ignore our fruits from our walk of life, especially to the ones who've known us before we ascended to where we are today. It's like a slap in the face, And then, of course, the new people that come across your path and into your life, they didn't know who you was before, or the trials and tribulations that you went through to put you in the space that you in. And it's not your job or my job to prove to them how far we have come in order to get to where we are at today. Most people that want to see it will see it. But as I've been realizing, most of them choose to be ignorant to the fact that they are rejecting your presence, your vibration, your knowledge and information. It's just a whole bunch of head bumping in the spiritual realm. I got some people that I've engaged with, and they don't say anything negative to me. It's not never any put downs. But sometimes a silence is just as bad as saying something negative. Just because this physical vessel is not projecting a vocal vibration doesn't mean that there isn't communication still being processed between the two beings. That's why they always say 70 to 80% of communication is nonverbal. So you don't have to tell me that you don't like me. You don't have to tell me that you don't want to hear what I have to say. You showing it with the vibration you're putting out to counter the vibration that I'm putting out. Instead of me putting out this vibration of all this love and light, and then it touching you, and then you expounding on it, and then it expanding bigger, instead my vibration expands out in your space, and your vibration pushes back against my vibration. I've been in spaces with males, females, ones that I really did care about and ones that I wanted to care about. And there's just no wiggle room. I had to figure out very fast where my switch was and how to turn it off and on. I've been doing this so long that it's not even a switch no more. Now it's just a push button. It's just a push button. Switches took too long for me. Now I've been in this space so long, I've upgraded that switch to a push start. So I'll give these beings a chance and an opportunity. And then soon as I feel a little bit of resistance or pushback, boop, I hit the button. I shut off all information that I had within me that I wanted to share out loud verbally, and I I minimize the vibration that I'm willing to share that would be helpful in healing. I had to word it that way because when I shut that switch off or push that button, there's another one that turns on, and that allows me to operate in this 3D world as this 3D vessel. Meaning I can have those irrelevant conversations. I could be quiet and ignore some of their questions or response or statements without feeling bad or guilty. That's probably one of the worst things I've had to learn how to do, because I don't like ignoring people. I don't treat people like, I treat people how I want to be treated. So if I was brought up and, I got prone and used to people ignoring me or going silent or pretending that they didn't hear me, I make sure in my everyday walk of life that I'm extremely responsive and attentive when I'm communicating or engaging with people. But I figured out very quickly how to shut that down, slow it down, and not feel any guilt for a lot of these beings who are choosing to use the other playbook and don't want to ride with me or have me ride with them during this spiritual battle time. And a lot of the times, like, the way society is set up is so scrambled and chaotic. I could be going through one situation with one being. I've had to hit the button, shut stuff down over here, and what happens is my old past fruits gives me more momentum to actually see it through. If you ever watched the Saw movie, it's kind of like how they had to hurt themselves to a degree in order to live. The same thing happens in the spiritual realm. So if I'm in the process of having to shut someone down because the conversations or the vibrations are just not intertwining very well, in my world, I always utilize the two people that brought me into this realm. My sperm donor never gave a fuck about me. Hardly ever was present the first, I would say total, maybe a year. My 39 years, and that's like spread out, and that only goes up to about 17. So all of the days and time spent throughout my life probably equaled up to about 1 year. I use that the non-presence of my sperm donor, and I also utilize the presence of my mom, because my mom was present. When I was younger, I used to think I was a mama's boy, but I realized I didn't really fuck with my mom like that. Like, she my mom, I love her, but me and my mom has just always been this. In her world, when I was little, she used to say, oh, we're so much alike, that's why we bump heads. Actually, we're opposites. That's why we bumped heads. If we was alike, there wouldn't have been as much friction between us as it was, because what you like to do, I would like to do. That's not what happens, you know? And I have to use these two in order for me to shut something down with something new that I'm engaging, so that way I can remove the guilt faster, you know? I don't mind giving the energy back when it's due, you know? But sometimes I don't want to give that energy back. I try to be very wise about how I pick these battles. And some battles you don't have a choice. You just got to be ready to handle yourself. But that's what I mean by the saw effect. Like, I don't want to have to use that fruit in order for me to have the strength to hit these buttons, to shut things down, to ignore people in the process while they're talking to me or trying to talk and engage with me. But I also cannot afford to play their game when I know they aren't trying to shift or change out of the space that they're in, when I know that they really don't want to grow, when I know that they really don't want to heal. You know, I knew somebody that is pregnant right now, and it's like the other day they had mentioned something about, oh yeah, I got the taste for some fried Oreos. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, you see what I do over here. Fried Oreos aren't natural, and it's probably extremely bad for the baby. So are you selfishly eating and doing these things, or are you putting the baby first? They probably like 4 to 5, going on 6 months now. So now at this point in time, I don't really put as much insight or information into it, because clearly this being is not that concerned with the baby's health. In their eyes, I stopped drinking, they never really smoked. That's not the only thing that's harmful to the child, you know? And it just sucks to a degree, because now it's about to be a new form life that's coming into this realm. And the person that they're coming through is clearly on the wrong path and is not putting them first to the degree that they should, since they decided to have the baby. I ran into to this guy one day. I was out here vibing. I was just out here vibing. I went and sat down at the picnic table, and he was sitting in his car, and I had all my stuff out about the film, but I wasn't getting any downloads or uploads. So I was kind of just sitting there. I sat way longer than I planned on sitting. I didn't open up my tripod stands or anything. I was just chilling. So in the meantime, I guess he sat for so long that he seen me sitting at the table. He decided to get out the car, come over to me, and then he mentioned how his wife just divorced him. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, damn, the universe just put this man right here beside me, and we actually shared experiences, and we was able to help each other to a degree in that moment of time that we were in, you know. And that was one of the times recently where I didn't feel or notice that my vibration or the knowledge and information I was given was getting pushed away or pushed to the side. And I also was intaking the information he was giving me because he was an older white guy, and I was really surprised. And he had been married to his wife for a really long time. And I was just thinking, like, you know, it's just really crazy how all of this is set up out here right now. I didn't know him from Adam and Eve, but he just randomly got out his car. He just said, "How you doing?" Threw something in the trash and just randomly just shared the information. Yeah, my wife divorced me, so first thing when he said that, of course, I felt some empathy and sympathy for him. So I wanted to share some information. I also wanted to be a good listener as well, because I could tell he wasn't in the best headspace. That's why he was out here, you know, in nature, just trying to just get some clarity, you know, get some answers, solutions. Not saying I gave him the answers and solutions, but him putting himself out here in nature was giving him more insight as far as his situation and what he was going through. And when the universe sends beings like this, these are the ones that I start to pour into. There's usually clear signs when it's your time in turn to pour into someone to help heal them, charge them, you know, be a great listener, because we're extremely attentive listeners over here. You know, we pay attention extremely well. You know, we listen to respond. We're not listening to react. Even though you could say reaction, responding goes hand to hand, neither here nor there. But just in like a layman's terms, we use it to respond. I didn't feel any guilt. I didn't feel the need to shut down, to not share the information. We actually engaged so long that I was late for my meeting. I had a meeting at the job, at one of my build jobs, and my job that I go to in the kitchen, it's like 30 minutes from my town. So we actually sat, and the universe just had me sit. The meeting wasn't even that damn important either, but we actually just sat and vibed, and I stayed longer than I was supposed to. I was late for the kitchen meeting, you know, which we get paid for our meetings, but sometimes the universe calling is more important than the dollar bill. And that could be where I hurt myself at sometimes, you know, that I don't chase every single dollar bill. I do work hella hours, 12, 13-hour shifts, you know. I only need about 3-4 hours of sleep. But beings like that cross our path, the words meet and correlate with the vibration that they're putting out. When I run across sincere and genuine beings, it makes me want to give more energy, love, and light. But for the rest of them, we have to learn how to shut that shit down. You gotta find your button. You gotta be ready to put the car in park. I don't care where y'all driving to. Y'all could be going cross country. The minute it start getting derailed, put that shit in park. They can drive, you can walk. They can walk, you can drive. But the two people are not gonna be able to be in that vehicle for a very long time. And it's crazy I just use that as an example because me and my BM was in the car. I had went and picked her and my Mini up, and we was just going like venture out to Richmond and like do an activity. I do this with them occasionally because I like to, even though me and my BM do not see eye to eye on 70% of the stuff, the 30% that we can manage to muster, you know, I just try to do things a little differently just so my daughter can see for herself, you know, the engagements between mommy and daddy. She don't have to have all these questions and wondering all of these things, like, because we've been separated since basically her memory started. And we got in the car. It was a little bit of a disagreement, and she was like, I can't ride in this car with you for no hour. I didn't say anything smart back. I didn't argue with her. I gave a nice long pause of silence, and I waited a few minutes, and then I came up with a solution. We can go grab some smoothies from this place right here. We can chill inside for a second, because it's in town, in the city, and then I could drop y'all back off. It worked itself out, but that car example that I gave led me to that, my own personal experiences when I was about to ride out an hour out the way for us to do some activity somewhere else. And she's like, I can't ride in this car with you for no hour. It's just like, damn, like I really be on God body time. So for you to be rejecting me still to this day, you know, outside of all the other things you came back to me and told me that I was quote unquote right about, even though I don't give a fuck about being right. It's like, you ain't really trying to build a stronger connection with Source and Creator. You know, you're not really putting yourself in a space, in a position in life to be more appreciative of your life, of the beings around you. Like, some people just be so lost, they don't, I gotta stop saying that. Some people be so for their team that everything else doesn't matter. It's kind of like how gangs are, groups of people, you know, how they operate out here. Whether it's a color gang, you know, the blue police, blue Crip, you know, red blood, you know, black GDs, you know, yellow vice lords or something. Whatever color it is, they go extremely hard for their team. It's the same way we ride out here for our team without the color. I ride the exact same way for the Creator without, actually, I love all the chakra colors. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a go. But it's the same for them. They ride extremely hard for that demonic playbook. And they know it's demonic. That's why they always have to get away. This is why they feel so guilty. And I heard something the other day that just, because we all always say we, you know, like, we fighting these demons, these battles, blah, 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 all these things, which we are doing. But when I heard the statement, it's like, if God and the Creator is the Most High, that means that Satan is only a tool. Satan is a tool to see how hard you really riding with Creator and Source. Because Satan cannot do anything to trump the Most High. We give Satan hella power, hella influence, but that vibration is still limited. It's such a weird process just when you start diving down these spaces and trying to gain more clarity. The more you dive down them, the more you keep ascending, the clearer it comes to you. The higher you move up in the rankings, the more information you're going to have passed through your way. But we just got to keep a lot of these things in mind, that a lot of these beings, like, they not going to change. They not going to shift. They're going to be growing with their team, but they not growing in their connection with Source and the Creator. And then the people who left the demonic team thought they did. All they really did was change chapters. You know, some of them did things blindly following the demonic book, and then they converted over to, oh yeah, I follow, you know, the universe and universal laws and, you know, the numerology and astrology and all of these things. It's like, still not really helping you with your connection to Source. How well are you fighting these battles, you know? Some days I be just so drained from fighting my battles, other people's battles, you know, on top of all the other things that I have to continue doing, because every day we wake up, this is like a gameplay. It's like when you go to sleep, you push pause on the game. And you wake up and you unpause the game. You're like, oh shit, you got the same saved data from the day before. So it's like, oh man, I forgot to go get these potions for this over here. I forgot to go grab this and forgot to go grab that. Okay, well, I need to go over this way so that way I can hurry up and get to the next level. The same way out here in this physical realm. I ain't want to run it up too long though, you know. A lot of these beings, we're not going to be able to help. So you have to be very mindful of how you are giving your energy, sharing your knowledge and information and your experiences, because a lot of them will also use your shared knowledge and experiences against you as well too. You know, they'll make you second guess and question things a lot more, you know, whether it's with how they respond or whether with their non-verbal response. You know, it could still put you in a spiritual state of questioning your own decision making. But tapping everything down below in the description. Peace and love to the kings and queens.